From Rome to Australia, this video is about to be interesting. So stick around until the end and let's begin. Okay, everybody, so as you saw in the intro today, we are going to be doing a lot of things. Firstly, starting off with Rome and a little little like thing from last episode. Remember all of the stuff, colonization stuff over here? Well, today we're going to be focusing on Rome and its needs for expansion and colonization. So as I said, it can really only afford this colony. However, in Africa, their stuff over here has inspired them a little bit too much. And they're going to launch a conquest. A conquest on tribes over here. And they're going to kill a few people, a few 100,000 people, but they're eventually going to leave as they fail to colonize any land. They're going to land here, fail again. Here, they go to the blue team. They realize it's blue team land, so they have to flee. They land here, they fail again. Eventually, Rome's leaders meet the blue team. And they're like, we have supported you against the red team since we started our alliance 10 episodes ago, I guess. I don't even remember. We want you to help us colonize. And the blue team is like, deal on one condition. You get rid of your Australian colony. Australia is blue team territory. Rome is now very hesitant at this because their only real colony is Australia. And so they're like, help us set up a colony in East Asia, and fine. Blue team rejects the offer. They're like, no. East Asia, also blue team. They say Central Africa. No. How about East Africa? No. South Africa? Hell no. India? No. Europe? Well, I mean, no, they're already in Europe. Northern Africa? Maybe, but no. But Blue Team does eventually give them a thing. Blue Team has sent a lot of explorers out into a lot of places, and one of these places is the back of Abyssinia, specifically near this region, Sudan, modern day Sudan. And they're like, we are willing to help you create a small colony cut off from the ocean right here. This would be its borders. And actually, we will be a little bit more helpful. We will make it in the center of Africa, right here. But you get rid of your Australian thing. Rome is like, yeah, definitely never in my life will I be agreeing to that. Because then they have to rely on the blue team for literally anything, or they have to go all the way over here. So they say no to that, and they suggest a thing. They suggest a compromise. They suggest, you know what? Keep Australia. Give us a colony at the southernmost tip right here. Blue team agrees. Explorers are sent out. Blue team confirms the creation of the colony, and the Romans move all their supplies via boats down here, selling off the rest of the land up here to the blue team. Rome has just created their first functioning colony. They also get another deal with the blue team. That's basically blue team is in case of ever the blue team and red team become friends, or like the complete shutting down of this. Supplies going to the Roman thing over here that are non-military supplies will never be denied access by the blue team at this port. Red team, meanwhile, is getting a little bit mad at how close the Romans are getting now with the blue team, and so they're gonna basically do some stuff. They may or may not set a little ship out that may or may not land right over here. That's right, these guys are creating another colony right next to the Romans. Now, already this is not looking good for Rome at all. And quickly Rome is like, bro, what the hell are you doing? This is we literally said don't set up any stuff over here in this region. This is our region that we want to colonize. Literally our one region in the entire world. Crimea also backs them up in this, supporting Rome, giving them a lot of aid in this colony, and basically being like, yeah, bro. Just like that, we also said this region is ours, so no one better touch that. Mostly for their own legitimacy, they say that. Red team's like, too bad, deal with it. And the matter is escalated to the United Nations, where Crimea is like, you know what, we're creating a better, bigger United Nations. And this time, there's 4 members in the council. The red team is kicked off the council, so is the blue team, and the mediator is elected from all nations as Crimea, mediating all discussions from now on through the UN. And the UN itself kind of just dissolves, but people now are going to trust Crimea to do this. So UN is gone, however, Crimea takes its place. And quickly, the two teams meet in Crimea, negotiations happen, and in the midst of this, the red team spreads its wings a little bit too far. They invade Rome. Uh, a siege is launched navally, blocking all access over here, while red team troops from within Australia quickly begin the invasion of Rome, destroying much of the Roman lands and capturing a lot of regions. This is a very hard to see color, isn't it? Rome is left with this small little dot, and it's eventually uh okay, maybe I can increase the opacity of this a little bit just to make it a little bit more comprehensible, I guess. So yeah, they're gonna push all the way over here. Rome is gonna get trapped into this little bit of a dot, and the rest of the land is going to fall to the red team. Now Rome is going to be increasingly mad, so much so they're going to release the dogs. They're going to declare full war on the red team. In order to defuse the situation, Crimea orders the blue team to leave. The blue team rejects, saying they have no legitimacy. However, the red team, I mean. However, the blue team quickly shuts down all their ports to red team, especially the one from Qatar. And since the blue team does not want to supply their capital through a giant desert, since they mostly do it through this or through going like that, they and a lot of their navies over here also, they're like fine, 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 chill, and they leave the region in complete ruin. They also leave Australia itself. Rome is destroyed. Rome is forced to actually now spend even more money, taking on huge amount of debt with the blue team to increase the colonization, as they never want this to happen again. So now they're looking for borders, and as they continue to expand, they're going to get very, 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 very fearful of this event ever happening again. However, I'm sure that's not going to be that much of a big deal yet. We can move on to instead Japan right now, where Japan is going to get really, really scared, as across from Japan, Indonesia is going to help set up a colony in Australia as well, just like the blue team did. So nice of these two guys, helping everyone set up their colonies. And this is going to be Shanghai. Wow, that's looking very nice. Now the blue team is actually going to start a new project also, which is to decolonize Australia and keep it as a big UN mining zone type area. Crimea is going to join them in this, destroying their colony also, and settlements are going to start being made as on Australia as neutral territory. Now, t- these are not permitted to be permanent settlement. I know they are permitted to be permanent settlements. However, Australia will have its own like legal status, so they're not really citizens, but also they are citizens. And very quickly, we can I'll just color in the land in Australia that's like settled with like just a line. Like I'll just draw lines there. As of now, both of those colonies to showcase this and to gather attention are completely destroyed, and all the people have a choice. Either they get an all expense paid trip back to their home country, Blue Team or Crimea, or they can go to another colony that's not being destroyed. Either way, Japan is scared, and quickly their fear comes true. Shanghai makes a landing on the main island over here. As Japan is colonizing, Shanghai sees a Japanese boat in the distance while they were swimming here, and they quickly make a landing, figure out everything Japan was doing, meet some of the tribe people who give them tales of legendary people. Japan, I mean Tokyo, Tokyo. Remember, the actual name of these guys is Tokyo. I just accidentally keep calling them Japan. But yeah. So they set up a little bit of a colony type thing, and yeah, Japan's cooked. Let's be honest, because Shanghai quickly also doesn't really tell these people anything but what they need to know, but they do tell these people that Japan is actually not that great. Japan always ends up failing. And then they show a map of East Asia showing how big Shanghai is and how small Japan is. Japan is mad. Japan is very mad. And so Japan is going to spread a propaganda campaign saying how these guys are here to kill everyone. And they're going to showcase some documents and treaties that Shanghai had with the Indonesians, which is going to lead to even more tribes joining up with Japan, not wanting to be hurt by Shanghai. And now Shanghai is given a choice by the Japanese: leave by choice from all of Australia, or we will take over literally all of your colonies. This is not told to the tribal people because Japan's going to probably twist the narrative. Their plan is to just like tell them that they defeated the Australians and kill anyone who says no to that. Shanghai says fine. However, on the condition that Japan begins opening up this place to the rest of the world and showcasing these guys that the rest of the world exists. Japan agrees, however, in practice, they do not do this. Now the timeline for this is supposed to be a month. In a month, these guys are supposed to create their own country, and Japan is supposed to also leave. However, month passes, Japan does not do this, and this little safety keeping of Shanghai, that Shanghai kept, was starts preparing for war because landing over here is actually like very, very, very bad for it was like not a good location, so Shanghai like completely disassembled it. Anyway, they begin for military stuff as Japanese troops quickly invade, take control of the region. Shanghai is not going to pursue further action because they're like, you know what, these guys can do this. It's okay. They won't even reveal the secret of this. So still, Indonesia does not know that these guys are on the island. However, that's about to go completely wrong. Because what Indonesia left, or Indonesia, no, what Shanghai left was a weapon. And a lot of tribes over here are going to start trying to rebel. So before that weapon can make it out, Indonesia, by a little bit of force mixed with a lot of very good persuasion tactics, is going to capture this. But this doesn't really matter in the long run. I was kind of yapping. However, it proves that um Japanese like influence on this island is insanely weak. Meanwhile, Japan now gives the rest of the island a choice: join or get destroyed by Indonesia. Now, most people don't believe the Japanese that this is going to happen until Indonesia um, does this. They literally just like capture this land, and this serves as nothing but proof to the already supporters of Japan that the Indonesians are a horrible, horrible force. And in this land, the Indonesians do horrible things. They completely loot the entire land. And Japan also does the same thing in their land, but more ethically. Like, they loot it consensually. They have permission to loot the land. And they say it's to better their technologies, which it is. The rest of the island joins Japan. Japanese troops move to the borders of Indonesia. And almost instantly, Indonesia realizes what just happened. They realize this is Japanese people because it's flying high Japanese banners. All the tribals that lived here call themselves Japanese now, and Indonesian chieftains now visit, and infiltrators now get in here, and they return to the capital, informing the Indonesian king of Japanese presence. Indonesia goes ham. They're they're scared because they thought this entire island was theirs. They didn't realize their actions on the population, the local population, would have any effect. It did. They're literally one of their worst enemies is now controlling their prized possession, this island. And quickly everything changes. Since the episode where Japan landed here, Australia development episode, Japan's plan was to completely destroy Indonesia using this island. And quickly that plan is launched. Phase 1 is the attack of this place. Quickly Japan invades, destroying so much stuff. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, Japan-Indonesia war is one of the things over here. So, okay. Japan captures so much stuff, and quickly in the newly colonized lands especially, there's a lot of support for Japan because they knew that Japan exists, and quickly that region is completely taken over by the Japanese. And now Indonesia thinks this is going to be an island war, right? So they're not prepared for this. However, Japan is, because Japan makes another landing right over here, capturing a main Indonesian island. A real island, not the one that the Indonesians were colonizing. That scares Indonesia quite a bit. Following this, people land over here, and Japan begins a full-scale invasion of Indonesia, looking to basically capitulate the nation and take it over completely. Now the thing is here, Japan doesn't have the resources to do this, so they're going in for the fastest way to do this. And one of those ways is going to be destroying the biggest cities. So after capturing that, they're going to make a landing on Jakarta, or like modern day Jakarta, and they're going to capture that and destroy it. Jakarta, wait, is Jakarta the island? No, Java is the island, Jakarta is the city. Over here, they're also going to make a landing on Singapore, taking control. However, they tell the government if they try anything, they will burn the capital, and they use that as a little military base, eventually leave it alone. However, they invade over here and begin making their way over to the capital, fighting off so much forces. Quality over quantity, honestly, for Japan, because they have better technology, but they're so severely outnumbered. And now the blue team is finally going to realize what's happening. And as Japan continues to make progress down here, the blue team is going to change everything. They're going to nuke Tokyo anyways. I'm joking, no, they're not going to do that, obviously. Nukes aren't even invented yet. But they're going to basically give Shanghai the all rights to absolutely annihilate Japan. More importantly, they themselves are going to go to Tokyo, and they're going to give Japan an ultimatum. Pull out from Indonesia, or we are about to destroy your entire country. Japan chooses the second option, and blue team military, oh my god, the response time goes crazy because the entire south of the island completely false. Um, already, already, I don't even know what to say. Japan should have got out of there while they had the chance. Now they're cooked, genuinely cooked. They're it's over. And yeah, Tokyo falls very quickly shortly after. And with Tokyo gone, Japan needs to start locking in, donating so much military to taking care of this. They're going to push. They're gonna push hard, and eventually Indonesia is also gonna push them back out. Back over here, though, Indonesia realizes they're not winning this, and so they sign the peace treaty, an unconditional surrender of Indonesian land. So take it. Okay, wait, note that I undid that a little bit too much. Taking a look at this peace treaty, we um we can already assume Indonesia is crying after this because they lose so much land. They lose not only this island, most of it, actually no, all of the island. I'm gonna say because the people, they don't lose stuff. It's the entire island is given a referendum, and the people choose to become Indonesian. Blue team is forced to sell off their colony as it would have literally no resources, and so Japan now with this controls the strongest island in all of the Australian thing as of now. Actually, the only colony, the only one with like a permanent population. Anyway, Japan's capture of this is going to be harsh. Actually, I want to change this a bit. I want to say that Indonesia actually keeps the island, most of it, and Japan actually uncolonizes all of this, just because Japan doesn't want to border Indonesia, right? You know what we are gonna say? We're gonna say that Japan gets Indonesia to uncolonize some regions, a lot of regions actually. We're gonna say Japan gets Indonesia to uncolonize all of this. I feel like that's more realistic and plausible. However, from here, the Japanese Indonesian War comes to a conclusion. Japan is the victor, restored, excuse me, restored as one of the greatest East Asian nations to ever exist. Stay hydrated. Now we can move on to the true highlight of this episode. Blue team and red team war. I know you've all been waiting for this. Don't even lie to me. Since the last time the audio isn't delayed, I'm just coloring over this while I yap. Um, since the start of the series, the most entertaining and influential battles have always included the red team and the blue team. So what happens when we bring both of those guys together? Obviously, it's going to be very influential battles, except it almost never is. It only ends up dictating the entire life of a country. Like literally, have you seen these wars? Every time one of these guys win, it literally dictates the entire history, rest of the history of those nations. Take Central Africa, for example. Literally, its first war was with the red team and blue team, and that has dictated its entire storyline so far. Another country like this is become Somalia, who after the blue team overthrew, and I mean the red team overthrew, and the blue team invaded, was reduced very, very far. And now, I'm pretty sure one of these sides, I'm gonna have to check, but one of these sides is blue team, the other side is red team. And finally, we're going to be ending this storyline. The Somalian storyline is going to be coming to a close. All right. So if you remember, these guys are the red team itself. These guys are rebels against the red team after the red team overthrew it. Episode 27. That's where this took place. I just had to go watch that because I don't even remember what was happening here. I recommend going to watch the Somalian part of that video before this. However, it's okay. Um, I can just summarize that. These guys basically started a civil war against Somalia, who was under the blue team. Then the red team came in to help them, captured all of this, refused to give it back to these guys, so they declared war on the red team. Those guys fought. This became the status quo. Then these guys went apart from these guys after the blue team invaded them, and these guys didn't help. But then eventually rejoined, and now this is the rebel state, and this is the red team. Now this rebel state specifically, this part wants to complete destruction of the red team in Somalia. These guys want diplomatic solve to this. Either way, both will get this land back from any means necessary. Now, basically, these guys, they're kind of getting further and further from their roots. And one of the ways of proving this is now this part is now like this episode. So after all that, these guys are getting further and further from their main cause of nationalism. And a proof of this is Blue Team. Blue Team influence gets to these guys. And the king gets wealthier and wealthier off Blue Team trade. Eventually, he decides, you know what? We will get this land back. However, we will get it back with the help of Blue Team. And the blue team versus red team war begins once more. Central Somalia with the red team, outer Somalia with the blue team. Very quickly, blue team helps Central Somalia, outer Somalia, in their war against the red team. Now, even though these guys have bad blood, it's okay because both right now, as of now, want the destruction of the red team. So the king, he's very hesitant on this. He doesn't know what the people will think. However, his advisors and even the people themselves urge him to do this with the blue team's help, as it's better to be under the influence of blue team than be under red team and get absolutely destroyed. Especially after seeing what the red team's been doing over here and here, that's what's going to really fuel this. The blue team is going to send some of their own troops in here to fight as well. However, that's going to be frowned upon by a lot of people, as they don't really want the blue team to be actually fighting in here. However, blue team is not going to listen, saying that their help is literally required, or else they're going to lose this war, and they don't want to lose because of how much stuff they're pouring into this. Which I guess, like, fair enough, but also that's a lie. They're going to win either way. Let's be honest. Because if the red team somehow manages to win this, then they would have won, even if the blue team was involved or wasn't involved. They would have won. But you know what, blue team, do what you want. Take that extra safety precaution, I guess. Somalians rebels are going to continue the beating of the red team until eventually the blue team is going to capture this main town, which actually is the only part they really wanted to capture because it holds a very big time Somalian criminal who has been who in the civil war helped and was one of the top generals, and all those generals are very much criminal like, because like all those generals that helped with this war in the first place, all of them, none of them are untouchable except for the king. And the blue team, believe me, is going to get their revenge on every one of those guys they can. Over here, another one of those cities, another general hideout of those criminals, and they're going to capture that as well. And now they no longer have a reason. Meanwhile, these guys are getting more and more upset with the way this is working. And eventually, it's going to just become too much. And these guys are going to be like, you know what, screw this, screw how diplomatic we're being, it's time for all out war. And they're going to send everything they got in one clean swipe, and it's going to go very well. Not only are these guys going to connect to the coastline, they're going to capture all of this, and they're going to absolutely clean swipe this land. And now the red team is like getting insanely scared. The red team is like, they have no idea what to do. Eventually, they look for peace, and they sign the peace treaty. So taking a look at this, due to the diplomatic approach of these guys, blue and the blue team, the two sides meet in the blue team to decide the new borders of the land. These guys, to their dismay, only get this land over here. Actually, no, they only get this stuff over here, down here. They get this land over here. And that's literally it. That's all they get. So these rebels, because technically it's a different rebel group than the other one, after doing so much of the work, get literally nothing. Right? Very fair deal. Very fair deal. And the other guys are going to get the rest of Somalia. Literally the rest of Somalia. Now, some regions are going to be left undecided. For example, this region right here, which is going to be which is going to be contested between the blue team and Somalia, as the blue team says that they should have it. Somalia says they should not. It's basically the only region that's like that, actually. Um, the blue team got the general from that city, so they're gonna give that up almost instantly. They don't want it. They don't need it. So we can just, yeah, that's gone. There's a lot of brown here for some reason. I may have not like done this well when I was cleaning it up after the peace treaty last episode. This is also gonna be the last thing this episode. So yeah. Meanwhile, red team is, I guess they keep some stuff. Like they keep this coastline up here. Actually, no, they keep this stuff around the main capital, just because these guys don't want that capital anymore, since they want to be disconnected from the old society of Somalia. And so this little thing right here, this border, is going to actually be kept and extended around Somalia, and this land is going to be shared between the blue team and the red team, while this land is eventually given back to the Somalians after some negotiations. And with that, this is the new Somalia. Now let's move on to these guys. They're going to get a little bit more land right here. They're going to capture, maybe not. Maybe I feel like they would get more over here and over here. So they're going to grab a little bit more up. Maybe again not, actually. Maybe they are just going to get left to this. So I guess, yeah, that is it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.